number 10 spot we have Sasquatch. Alright guys, there have been so many Sasquatch sightings over the years that I'm pretty sure he lives in our universe, but who knows, maybe he jumps between other universes. I could believe it. There was a crazy Sasquatch sighting off of a ski slope where at least 20 people stopped skiing to take a look at the giant hairy creature that looks just like every description of Sasquatch. Giant, about 8 to 10 inches high, hairy, ape-like, living in the woods. Someone got it on film, but it's so far away that you can only make out how big it is, but none of its features. Its features were hidden behind a shadow. The people that saw it firsthand though swear that it's a Sasquatch. It is believed that Sasquatch is a human ancestor that never evolved the same way the rest of us did, which, I don't know, could be possible, but I think it came here from another universe, personally. Or perhaps another time. Maybe it walked through time somehow. Or if it came from another universe, maybe it came from a place where only Sasquatches exist. If you like this video, don't forget to smash that like button as it will really help us out. In our number 9 spot we have Nessie. Nessie has got to be real. There has gotta be magic left in this world. There has to be. I refuse to believe otherwise. Do you know how many sightings there have been of Nessie? Okay, fine, me either. But there have been many, like too many to count. There's a whole website dedicated to people sharing their sighting stories. My theory is though, it must live on another plane of existence and come down to ours every so often, or it's from a parallel universe and slips into ours. Or do you think it's possible that we get glimpses into other universes at times? Here is a video though, taken from the air that shows us a brief moment when perhaps Nessie visited our universe. This video is nuts because if you want to argue that the creature swimming is not Nessie, then what is it? A long-necked dinosaur that still exists? Perhaps a swimming giraffe? Like, come on. Nessie is real, y'all. This video is totally showing something. In our number 8 spot, we have the werewolf. Another mythological creature that might actually live in another parallel universe is the werewolf. Why? I don't know, because it feels like it should exist. Also, there have been sightings of it every so often, and it's always alone, so it's possible that it exists in our universe, but something makes me think that if it did, then why haven't we seen more than one? It would have had to reproduce somehow. Unless it can reproduce on its own, then perhaps I might believe it. Fun fact, a lot of species can actually reproduce via an immaculate conception. A turkey is one of them. Mind blown, I didn't know. Anyways, here's a very cool / interesting sighting of a werewolf that took place in Brazil in 2015. What's cool about this footage is that many people actually saw this creature and wrote about it online, and so it does give the picture some validity. He has long pointy ears, strange wolf-like legs, and has a small tail. The shot is blurry as it's night out, but you can still see that whatever it is, it's not human. You know what it reminds me of? Stranger Things. And the Demogorgon came from a parallel universe, so perhaps that's what this is. In our number 7 spot, we have the parking lot demon. Hey, demons are creatures too. I had to include this one on this list because this could be a demon or a ghost, but whatever it is, it's definitely not from our universe, or it's on another plane of existence and glitching into ours. So the story goes that years ago in Serbia, a woman was being chased by something in a parking lot. She was so scared that she went to the police to report it. The police reviewed the camera footage from the parking lot and discovered something insane. Yes, the woman was being chased, but whoever was chasing her was a transparent human. That's right, see-through. This was such a shock to the police that the story made it onto their local news. The footage is so wild to see that personally I think it makes you an instant believer after viewing it. Believer in something. Not necessarily demons or ghosts, but a believer that there is something magical out there that we don't know about yet. In our number 6 spot we have mermaids. A mermaid is a mythological creature that is half human, half fish that is said to live in the sea. Under the sea. For centuries, people have believed in mermaids. Fishermen have recalled tales of seeing a fish that looked human, and of course they say that every story comes from some truth. Whether the story of the Little Mermaid actually came from a real sighting of a mermaid is up for debate. Some believe that mermaids exist but perhaps look different than what we would imagine them to be. There have been videos that fishermen have posted online of fish that could pass as mermaids mermaids, such as in this clip. This fish has 4 breasts, a big tummy, arms like a human, but has a shark-like head and mermaid-like fin for legs. So perhaps this could be a mermaid, it just doesn't have the long red hair and look as glamorous as Ariel. Regardless, the sea is a whole other universe that we haven't explored much of, so I bet you mermaids do exist. In our number 5 spot we have gods and goddesses. Gods and goddesses have been worshipped and believed in since, well, the dawn of time. No, they are not mythical creatures, but they are mythical and needed to be on this list. Do you ever think about where the heck the stories about gods and goddesses perhaps came from? Did one person make them up and then others expanded on them? Perhaps. But what if none of them were made up? What if the story of Thor was channeled and it is really a story that took place in another parallel universe? It's definitely possible. There have been a few strange sightings of gods and goddesses over the years. There is one sighting of an eye in the clouds that people wondered if it was the eye of God. It's pretty wild to see, and I wonder what you think. Is this a pure coincidence that the clouds look like an eye, or perhaps is that the eye of God watching us, or a god watching us? In our number 4 spot we have dragons. Dragons are mythical creatures that fly, have long tails, and breathe fire. They have long been cherished by the people of China, who on many occasions have said that they feel the spirit of them or have spotted them. There is a video that was once floating around the internet that would make you think that perhaps they are real. This video isn't confirmed to be real though, but if it is, aw, that's the cutest baby dragon ever. The second video, however, is for sure real, and it is honestly a bit frightening to see. Some think that's a dragon, and some think it's a god or Jesus. But honestly, it could very well be an alien too. Personally, I think dragons most likely exist as a whole in another universe, but it's possible that we may have 1 or 2 in our universe as well. Who knows? In our number 3 spot we have the Loveland frog. Before this video, I had never heard of this mythical creature. This creature is essentially a giant humanoid that has qualities of a frog. Much to my surprise, there have been some sightings of this creature that definitely make you think, huh, perhaps it is real. Not enough up close and personal sightings though. But perhaps this is another creature that is from another universe. Watch, there is another universe out there where all of these creatures live and no humans exist. Then we would be their mythical creatures. Here is some footage someone found of what looks to be a Loveland frog. It certainly looks like one to me. I would love to know your thoughts. In our number 2 spot we have the Yeti. The Yeti is an ape-like being entity that people have spoken about as a mythical creature from Asia. No scientist has ever been able to get face to face with a Yeti, and so therefore it hasn't been officially classified as real. But just because we haven't gotten up close and personal with something doesn't mean that it is not real. Perhaps the Yeti has been hiding from humans. Perhaps the Yeti doesn't trust humans. Perhaps the Yeti is just from another universe. Well, not too long ago there were sightings of the Yeti, and here is a photo that someone captured of it running away. I feel like that is solid proof of the Yeti existing. Whether it is what we think it is, a creature more like a human but very tall, hairy, and not as evolved, that is the question. Perhaps it is not what we think it is at all. Perhaps it has magical powers and that is how it has stayed disguised all of this time. Or perhaps he goes back into his own dimension from time to time. Who knows? In our number 1 spot we have fairies. If there is one mythical creature that I am personally obsessed with and would be very, very happy if it existed, it would be the fairy. All of my life I have been obsessed with the idea of them. In fact, all of my life people would say to me that I am very fairy-like. Of course they meant that my spirit reminds them of how movies have portrayed fairies, and so that's their understanding of what fairies are. Personally, I think it is very possible that fairies live among us, and most likely in Ireland. Did you know that it was once thought that the people of Atlantis came to Ireland as their continent was sinking, and so therefore some Irish people would be magical like the Atlanteans, and some believe that our idea of fairies are perhaps just these people that are from Atlantis. Very interesting thought. Perhaps they live in another dimension though, and that's why we can't see them. Or maybe they all went to a parallel universe. Honestly, we could wonder about this forever, and it is fun, but I suppose unless we develop a device that allows us to slip into other dimensions, then we will never really know. But it's sure super fun to imagine.
Number 10. Very recently, in September of 2022, for those of you watching from the future, which, by the way, how's it going there? If you're watching this in the future, let me know in the comments. Anyway, in September, prominent paranormal scientist and Nessie expert Ron Halliday gave an interview to The Mirror, where he stated his belief that the Loch Ness Monster is from a parallel universe that we just may not be able to perceive. I'll be talking about the insane physics of parallel universes in a little bit, so stick around for that if you want to see me totally nerd out. He stated that many of the sightings and her disappearance thereafter may be explained by certain people being more psychically sensitive and picking up on things that are existing in multiple universes at once, or even something from the past. He went on to say that some people may even walk through portals to another dimension without realizing it, and that is where they may have seen the Loch Ness Monster and other cryptids. With so many sightings across hundreds of years, it's beginning to seem more and more likely that she can actually travel through time and space, and may be a being from another dimension. But the discussion of portals actually brings us to our number 9, the Upside Down. One of the many ways that parallel universes are often theorized as operating is that they exist at the same time as ours, but with very minor differences, running next to each other like the branches of a tree. However, this is not the only theory. Scientists are now discovering that there may actually be an upside down, like what is described in Netflix's Stranger Things, a universe that is the exact opposite of ours, existing on top, or rather below, our own, and we may have found a portal to enter it. Scientists at NASA's Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, or ANITA for short, have been conducting experiments with very interesting results. Their antenna is located where there is the least amount of radio interference so that they can measure as accurately as possible. And they've found that a constant, quote, wind of particles arrives on Earth from outer space. There are subatomic particles called neutrinos detected, some of which have very low energy and mass that is close to zero, and they can pass right through the Earth. But anything larger or with higher mass gets stopped by the matter of the Earth. Because of this, we should only be seeing these high energy particles coming down from space, but instead they're also seeing some come up from the Earth. And this implies that the particles are actually reversing through time. And this suggests the existence of a parallel universe where time runs backwards and the world exists in opposition with itself. It would have been created at the same time as the Big Bang, with one universe running forward through time and one backwards. After all, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? Very interesting stuff. And maybe that's where Nessie exists, you know, traveling forward and backward through time, and that's why sightings have dwindled over the years, and we may have just found a way to enter it. Number 8, mirror dimension. Now before I tell you about this next one, give this video a like if you're enjoying it so far. It really helps us out. Now without spoiling anything for you, in Stranger Things, one of the ways to access the Upside Down is through portals, some of which exist in water, and scientists may have found one on the sea floor. And I think that if another one of these exists in Loch Ness, we may have found our answer on where Nessie goes when no one is watching. About 2 kilometers below the ocean's surface in the Gulf of California, marine researchers have been conducting experiments and collecting data from microbes on the sea floor. Way down below, they discovered something incredible, a mirror pool, where on the bottoms and inside of fissures of some rocks there are microbes that move in very strange ways and create a perfect reflection of what is around them. Some of this is caused by individual ecosystems forming near hydrothermal vents that shoot out all sorts of crazy chemicals and microbes from under the earth. The difference between what collects on the edges of these fissures and in the center is baffling scientists, and some believe that you may actually be able to send something through it into the earth, and that may be a way into another dimension. Perhaps the Upside Down? Is this where the Loch Ness Monster goes? Number 7. Alright, we need to actually discuss a few sightings of Nessie from over the years, because they actually help explain where and when she appears and disappears. Sightings have been reported since 564 CE, when St. Columba allegedly had to compel a strange creature to not attack one of their followers. But reports stopped until 1527, when Duncan Campbell sighted a terrible beast on the shore of the loch. There were more sightings here and there, but no real evidence until 1933, when Hugh Gray took a picture of what appears to be the hump and fin of our lake-dwelling friend. When it was published in a local newspaper, it was accompanied by a note from Kodak, the film company, who stated that the negatives had not been altered in any way. It's strange that all of the pictures of Nessie and other cryptids are so blurry and far away, especially since we all have 4K cameras in our pockets now. But maybe she's just smarter than we think, or she can only appear on film and not digital, or perhaps she really does fade into another dimension. But there is a live camera set up on Loch Ness if you want to watch out for her yourself. Number 6. drop in reports. For the 90 years that Loch Ness Monster sightings have been recorded, there were always multiple sightings yearly, and even if some of them turned out to be a hoax, there were still reports. But 2013 was the first year that there were no sightings at all. This came after a string of years with declining numbers of sightings, so it seems a trend was forming, and she had decided to spend less and less time on our plane of existence. But since 2013, reports have skyrocketed, increasing every year to nearly 20 in each of the past few years. Some of this is because of the webcam system that's been set up, combined with the stay-at-home isolation of the past few years. More people are on the lookout, and more sightings have happened. Strange wakes occur in the water, humps are spotted rising out, and strange movements on the shore are just some of the things captured on the webcam. Number 5. Prehistoric evidence. Now, one of the main theories about what Nessie may be is that she's actually a form of plesiosaur, a sea-dwelling dinosaur that supposedly went extinct about 66 million years ago, along with the rest of the dinosaurs. These were characterized as carnivorous creatures with 4 fins, long necks, and humpbacked bodies who fed on fish and other sea creatures. They were thought to have existed only in seawater, but in 2021 in the Sahara Desert, paleontologists found new evidence of their existence in freshwater. In what was once an ancient freshwater riverbed, bones were found of small plesiosaurs that must have adapted to move from the ocean and into river and lake systems. And if this could happen in one place, what would stop them from doing the same to enter an ancient river system in Europe and eventually become what we call the Loch Ness Monster? Perhaps if they couldn't physically travel there because a little thing called land was in the way, they traveled through another river, one created and formed from space-time. Speaking of space-time, our number 4 entry concerns how it can be bent and morphed to do all sorts of crazy things. When Albert Einstein created his theory of special relativity, he explained that the speed of light was a constant, about 300,000 kilometers per second, or 186,000 miles per second for my American friends, and that this constant could be observed throughout space and time. But the only way that this could be constant between the two simultaneously is if space and time were linked. So, as someone in a rocket approaches the speed of light, they would perceive time to be slower and the lengths of objects to be shorter, compared to someone moving at a much slower speed. So in theory, if you could find a way to bend space-time, either through some advanced technology or perhaps some mystical energy, you could travel incredible distances or through time near instantly. Along with this, the existence of dark matter, which is a strange form of matter that is invisible yet incredibly dense and makes up 5 times more of the universe than normal matter does. It can actually bend gravity and space-time around itself. Is there a large pocket of dark matter in Loch Ness that allows Nessie to bend space around it and move to another time? Perhaps she is actually a dinosaur from the past, unwittingly traveling around and trying to find her way home. Number 3, the Mandela effect. I'm sure many of you have heard of the Mandela effect, but I'll give a brief summary. Essentially, it's a phenomenon of mass misremembering of events, such as the one where it got its name, where before his death in 2013, many people remembered Nelson Mandela having already died in the 1980s. There are countless examples of these collective memory lapses, like Looney Tunes being spelled with O's instead of a U, the Monopoly Man having a monocle, or other small changes in our reality, a glitch in the Matrix, if you will. Lots of people think these changes in their memory prove the existence of many parallel universes where each small change creates an entirely new universe. And maybe that's where Nessie exists, as a collective memory from another universe that we no longer reside in. But the theory of multiple universes existing at once is not the one that I find the most plausible. Number 2, the Big Bounce. Now, this is personally one of my favorite things to talk about when it comes to theoretical physics, which doesn't sound exciting, I know, but I promise you it's really cool. When the universe was created in the Big Bang, all the particles and energy of the universe were shot out into empty space from a singular point at incredible speeds. This theory suggests that as the universe expands, space-time and gravity will both be pulling against it as it expands, eventually reaching a point of equilibrium in a few billion years. And when this happens, one of 2 things will occur. Either the universe will continue to expand and tear space-time, causing the eventual death of the universe, or what I find to be more likely is the forces pulling against the universe will draw it all the way back inwards down to a single point, only to bounce off again, creating another Big Bang and expanding. This is how parallel universes may function, not because there are many existing at once, but because this universe has and will continue to exist exist an infinite number of times, expanding and contracting, having minor differences each time. This is where Nessie could come into this, because perhaps she existed in one version of this universe, but not another, and some people are only seeing the echoes of where she once was. I think that the number one spot on this list of evidence may actually be the sheer lack of evidence. Now, I know this may be contradictory and not particularly good science, but we're talking about a mythological beast here, so we need to take it a little easy on our expectations. While there have been so many sightings, images captured, and even sounds recorded of the monster, no one has captured it well enough on film or gotten close enough to call it true evidence. Scientists have used sonar, radar, trawled the bottom of the lake, and performed all sorts of experiments to see if it exists and found nothing. Yet there are still so many reports that come up each year, and some of them are pretty convincing, and it makes me wonder if Nessie is smarter than we think. Perhaps even a being of greater intelligence that outwits us and moves between universes, baffling humans in each of them, just for a good time. With so many sightings but so little solid evidence, the Loch Ness Monster truly remains a mystery, and it may just be one that's bigger than we ever imagined.
In our number 10 spot, we have the tree hopper. I don't usually love insects, so this one just gives me the creeps to talk about. The tree hopper has over 3,000 plus separate species, and each one has a specific look that helps them blend into their environment. The tree hopper can be recognized by their vertical face and enlarged thorax, has a helmet that is tough and hard and comes in different shapes and sizes. They are usually about a half an inch in size. They eat liquid from plant stems and, as you can imagine, are always found in trees, but in warmer parts of the world. They are sometimes referred to as insect brownies. And that, once again, makes me feel alone in the world, because just why? They are bugs, not food. Just no. But fun fact that actually makes them kinda cool, tree hoppers actually secrete honeydew. So I guess that's kinda cool.
Number 9, the red-lipped batfish. Yep, a lot of words in that one name right off the hop. The red-lipped batfish, I gotta say, I'm a fan of the look. The red lipstick, she looks like she's ready for a night out on the fish town. But don't let those looks deceive you, folks. Hiding in the depths of the Galapagos, these batfish can grow up to 10 inches long, and the defining feature here, obviously, besides their lips, are their feet. Yeah, these batfish have pectoral fins that allow them to walk on the ocean floor. Yeah, walking on the floor. A fish walking on the floor with lipstick on. What's going on here? Because they belong in the same family as an anglerfish, the red-lipped batfish also has an elysium on its head in order to attract prey. It's got like a clown nose thing almost. I want to just go honk. I really want to pop it. I know I can't, but I want to try. I'm not a fan of deep sea fish, or any fish really for that matter, so this one absolutely creeps me out. I'm also not a fan of clowns. This fish checks a lot of those boxes, so I'm heading out.
Coming up at our number 8 spot, we have the axolotl. There is much speculation as to how to pronounce the name of this creature, but for the most part, most people believe that it is axolotl. But another one that I have to kinda admit that it sorta looks cute, but if I saw it in person, I would probably be terrified. Also, another alien looking creature. Did we just base our alien images in movies off of these kinds of creatures? Known to be usually brown, black, sometimes greenish, and white, but the white ones are bred in captivity. Apparently the white ones are long descendants of a mutant version of the male back in the 1800s. They were from then on bred to be white with black eyes. These creatures are actually very endangered. They are usually found in lakes and in canals in Mexico. What looks like little baby fine hairs on their head are actually gills. So cool. They eat small worms and fish. They also have the superpower to regenerate their jaws, spines, limbs, and get this, even their brains. Whoa, arguably the coolest superpower I've ever come across in an animal.
Number 7, stonefish. Yeah, this next one is great at disguising itself as a rock. So when it comes to deadly ocean life, that's just what you want to hear. Nice, good game, folks. The stonefish is spiny, it's ugly, it looks medieval almost. Each of its 13 spines are all filled with deadly venom. So if you're taking a late night skinny dip, yeah, keep an eye out for any blinking rocks. Let's avoid that entire area. These fish look angry, they have John Wick eyes, they're on a mission, something's going on in their soul. Its venom is very lethal to humans, so if you're watching from Australia, I implore you to wear steel-toe boots next time you go to the beach. Stonefish don't use their venom to hunt, they only shoot venom out of their spines if pressure is applied to them. That's worse than anything. The odds of accidentally stepping on one of these guys is significantly higher than any other fish. Because, like I said, they look like rocks that blink. Remind me to never swim in the ocean again, or just go to Australia for that matter.
In our number 6 spot, we have the star-nosed mole. Somebody convince me that this isn't an alien. How is this a real creature from our planet? Being the creature of everyone's nightmares, the star-nosed mole has quite the positive sounding name, like extremely unfitting in my opinion. I would name it the spider face mole. Is that not more appropriate? All jokes aside, the star-nosed mole actually has its own record for being the world's fastest eater, as it is said that it can eat an insect in a quarter of a second. Its star or spider-like face, in my opinion, is actually an organ, and it has over 100,000 nerve fibers, which makes it one of the most sensitive organs on any mammal to touch. The star-nosed mole is found living in the wetlands just along the coast of the US from Canada to Georgia. They are actually known to be blind, but they have mastered their senses and they can swim and smell underwater. Most of their life is spent hunting their prey underground, and they usually live about 2 to 3 years.
Number 5, the blue dragon. This one sounds like it's from a different time, let alone a different universe. Oh my god. The blue dragon, aka the Glaucus atlanticus. First of all, it looks like it's from Pandora. This thing is bright blue. It's a blue sea slug. Believe it or not, it's a gastropod that just decided, you know what, I'm too cool for a shell. Don't need it. And to be fair, when you store poison in your fingertips, you don't need to hide, right? The sea slug can often be found in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Ocean. They favor tropical waters, obviously, who doesn't? And they literally adapt to survive. They eat Portuguese man-o'-war, these deadly jellyfish-looking siphonophores, and during this process while feeding, blue dragons will literally absorb and then store its prey's cnidocytes. They will take its toxins from them and then store them in these small sacs. Yeah, they're literally stealing from you. So you never know what kind of venom is being held at the time. Yeah, they steal your loot. How rude is that? You could poke one and be like, oh, poison, see ya.
In our number 4 spot, we have the pink fairy armadillo. Okay, this creature looks like it belongs in a fairy universe, and clearly its namers would agree. If I were to be an ugly creature, there's no way I would choose anything but to be a pink ugly creature. Way too many people online call this terrifying creature cute. And now I'm sure the world has gone insane. Also, I'm just not a fan of armadillos, so I'm biased. The pink fairy armadillo grows to be about 2.5 to 4.5 inches long. It can weigh up to 4 ounces, and they can live up to 10 years. They're usually found in central Argentina in grasslands, plains, and dunes. They love to eat plants, worms, and insects. They protect themselves by curling into a ball. They have pretty silky yellowish white fur, and what looks like pink armor is actually just blood vessels under its armor. They have been so hard to find, so scientists haven't spent much time studying them to date, probably because they're jumping back into their fairy world dimension every now and then.
Number 3, Brood X cicadas. Okay, this one sounds like a Marvel villain, Brood X cicadas. Hold on to your butts for this one, really. This one is absolutely insane. Over the past couple of years, billions of cicadas came from the ground all over the United States for the first time in 17 years. They were just underground waiting for so long. At the same time, they all just came out and surprised us all. Thing is, they just happened to be born with a fungus made of the same chemical found in poisonous mushrooms. So they didn't have a great time. Yeah, they were a little confused. They didn't feel too hot. The fungus ate away at their bodies, so much so that their butts literally would fall off. They would fall off, they would lose their butts because white spores are pushing them off at this point. These cicadas don't even know what they're doing. They're calling this a zombie virus for bugs. Yeah, more than fair, their ass is falling off. But you can't say that now, can you? What's really happening here is a process called massospora. These poor things just want to mate and move on, but now both males and females are making cicada catcalls, so their whole system is now ruined, all because of this fungus. These cicadas aren't a threat to humans, thankfully, but their tragic summer of 2021 is definitely worth mentioning. We had a bad 2020, cicadas, they had 2021. We're sharing. Sharing is caring.
Coming up at our number 2 spot, we have the California leaf-nosed bat. It's hard to imagine that this extremely cute but also terrifying creature exists, so it must be from a parallel dimension. That's all I can conclude. This creature is of course a part of the bat species, but it has one big distinguishing feature that makes you think that it should be a species of its own. It has Dumbo-like ears. Yes, I'm referring to the Disney movie Dumbo, where the elephant has abnormally large ears that end up acting as propellers and give him the ability to fly. Bats can already fly, so sadly his ears are seemingly pointless to me. What's the point of having big ears if they don't help you fly, is all I'm saying. They're also known to have leaf-looking growths on their nose. They live in caves and mines in the deserts of the US and Mexico. They eat grasshoppers, beetles, moths, and crickets. Their ears are about 1 to 1.5 inches in length each, and they don't usually migrate because their wings are too short and broad for traveling long distances. Would love to know if you think the idea of a big-eared bat hitting you in the face would be terrifying or cute. Let me know in the comment section below.
Number 1. Bulldog rat. Recently at Most Amazing, we've covered projects that are aiming to bring back extinct animals. That's kind of fun. The Lazarus Project aims to bring back extinct woolly mammoths. Yeah, we could see them return in the next 8 or 9 years, which is terrifying but exciting, science-wise. That's lovely. Let's save animals, sure. As long as we don't bring back the bulldog rat, I'm happy. Of course, being way larger than black rats, the bulldog rat was thankfully last seen around 1903. The same time speedwalking was introduced to the world. It's because everyone was booking it home because of these things. That's my personal theory right there. They have 2 to 3 centimeters of fat on their backs. So disgusting, with short tails and thick hair. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing holly or jolly about the bulldog rat, except for the fact that its home was once that of Christmas Island in the Indian Ocean. They were thriving until sailors discovered said island, and they brought with them infected black rats. So it was like West Side Story, but like rat version. It was crazy. So when they pulled up to the island, Christmas Island, they brought with them all these rats, and then they riddled everyone with disease. So it took less than a year to wipe out an entire rat species. Honestly, I'm okay with that. I don't like rats at all. If you're a rat person, sorry. Cool tricks, but nope.
Starting off this countdown, we have the snipe eel. Now, I really don't understand how this is a real creature because it looks fake. The snipe eel is like a mix between a hummingbird with a tapeworm, which is a very interesting mix. It's unlike any creature I have ever seen before. Plus, this thing can grow as long as 4 feet. Imagine that, you're swimming in the ocean, all of a sudden you feel something tickling your feet, and it's this thing. No thank you. To make things creepier, this dude has its digestive system in its throat, and it has 750 vertebrae in its spine. That's way more than any other known organism. See how I said known organism? Because if this thing is real, then what else is out there in the ocean? In our 9th spot, we have the vampire squid. You know this thing is creepy already when its scientific name literally translates to the vampire squid from hell. Isn't that nice? Now what's weird is that this creature resembles both a squid and an octopus, but it's neither. This thing has 8 arms and 2 tentacles. Its arms are lined with spines that are arranged in 2 rows. What's also unique about this creature is its color, which can change depending where in the ocean they are. They also have the largest eyes in the entire animal kingdom, which is wild in comparison to the size of its body, and the eyes either look red or blue depending on the light. And lastly, these guys travel around by ejecting water from a hidden organ. That's kinda cool, you know, it's got its own propeller system. In our 8th spot today we have the giant grenadier. Now this is a weird mix between a fish and an eel. It's got a fish's head, but like a long eel-like body. Although it looks pretty creepy, these things don't bite or sting. Now what's weird though is that they stink. These fish contain high levels of TMA, which is found in human urine, sweat, and in bad breath. And it's safe to say that no one likes the smell of any of that. But this thing reeks even more. It's like you combined pee, sweat, and BO all together. That's what this creature smells like. PU, no thank you. In our 7th spot we have the sarcastic fringe head. And don't be fooled by this guy's name, okay? It's not a fish with a bad or sassy attitude. That would be funny. But I will say these fish are highly aggressive. They are located in the Pacific waters off the coast of North America. Now what makes them so terrifying are their Demogorgon type flaps around their face that just open up to make them look intimidating. Either that or it kinda looks like the poison spitting dinosaur from Jurassic Park. Like if you agree. So what they like to do is hide out, and when their prey comes swimming by, they'll launch out and attack them. And they aren't picky. They will go after any and everything. In fact, there's one video of a fringe head swallowing a whole damn octopus. Yes, you heard me, an octopus. They have also been known to attack divers as well. So not only are their habits terrifying, but they also just look terrifying too. In our 6th spot, we have the fanfin anglerfish. Now, anglerfish are undeniably creepy. In fact, they are considered one of the scariest sea creatures on Earth. Take a look at a picture of them and you'll see why. Now, there are different types of anglerfish. Today, let's talk about the fanfin anglerfish. This thing has a massive jaw with tons of sharp teeth. Their mouth is so wide it extends all over the entire circumference of their head. These creatures are also covered in what looks like hair all over their body, but those are used to sense what is around them. Now, if you watched Finding Nemo, then you already know about this guy, okay? It's when Marlin and Dory just keep swimming, and then it gets darker, and then they see this thing glowing in the distance. Turns out it was part of the anglerfish. Remember that scene? That's this fish. Now, they use this light or lure to attract fish, and then once they're near, they can scoop them up. What's wild is that they can swallow fish that are almost twice their size. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the deep sea lizardfish. I'm telling you, these creatures just keep getting weirder and weirder. Now, these things can be found at the depths of the ocean at 1,000 to 2,500 meters down. They're about 25 inches long and are a shiny blue color. Now, these things like to wait on the ocean floor until their dinner comes by, and when it's time, they open their jaws and snap out at them. In fact, lizardfish has hinged teeth, which means the more and more the prey resists and tries to escape, the further they'll just move down its throat. These things eat everything from coral to worms to fish to crustaceans. Some have been known to eat other members of their own species, so they have cannibal-like tendencies. In our 4th spot, we have the tardigrade. Now, this has to be one of the strangest creatures on the entire planet, and I'm not even kidding when I say that. So tardigrades, otherwise known as water bears or moss piglets, are these plump-looking creatures with 8 legs and hands with 48 claws on each. They live off of nutrients from plants and microorganisms. When they are feeding, their sharp teeth extend outwards, allowing them to suck out the nutrients. Now, here's why they're super weird. These things are almost indestructible. Not only can they survive in the ocean, but they can even survive in outer space. If an apocalypse happened, they would still be floating around in the ocean. One of the reasons why is that they can go up to 30 years without food or water, and they can survive in both absolute zero or above boiling temperatures. That is just wild to me. Like, they don't seem like real creatures. In our 3rd spot, we have the deep sea blob. Again, how is this thing real? It's like a slab of slime with a human face on it. I kid you not, I have met people that look like that. So the sea blob can be found at around 2,800 meters down along the US West Coast. They are pinkish in color and can grow to be about 12 inches long. Now, what's weird is that they lack bones and teeth. I mean, that's why they're called a blob. And since they have low muscle mass, they don't actually move around much. So they just float along, and when they see food, they open their mouths and suck the food in, kinda like Kirby. Now, here is the most interesting part. Take a blobfish out of water and, you know, it looks pretty creepy. Well, it's thought that when it's in water, it takes on a different appearance. But when out of water, they look weird because they don't have the water pressure to hold their shape. Moving on to number 2, we have the flying spaghetti monster. Now, the creature's real name is Bathyphysma conifer, which is a mouthful and I probably pronounced it wrong, so people like to just call it the flying spaghetti monster due to its appearance. The thing appears to have noodly type tentacles. This thing was first spotted off the coast of Angola in 2015 by workers at BP. They were taking footage underwater when they managed to capture this thing on film. Immediately, they called it the flying spaghetti monster as it reminded them of the deity of the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. But apparently it's not just a singular organism, but a bunch of them fused together. It's a really strange creature. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the super giant shrimp. In 2011, a group of scientists were exploring the Kermadec Trench off the northeast coast of New Zealand when they came across this giant shrimp known as the supergiant. That same year, 6 other giant shrimp were found. The largest one was 34 centimeters, or 13 inches. Excuse me? No, shrimp are tiny. These things must have come from a universe where big creatures are small and small creatures are big, like in the movie Journey to the Center of the Earth 2. To this date, one of the biggest shrimp ever caught was 18 inches, which is 45 centimeters, which is massive.
Starting off our list in our number 10 spot, we have the Mauisaurus. These guys are a creature that was once very real, but they are thankfully a relic of our past because they are absolutely horrifying. They are named after the Maori god Maui, who is said to have pulled the islands of New Zealand up from the sea floor, so anything named after him is of course going to be an absolute ginormous beast. The neck of this creature measured around 49 feet long, which is the longest proportionate neck of any animal ever. The entire creature measured around 66 feet, so it's clear that their neck counted for a large portion of their body. But like, imagine a swimming dinosaur creature with a snake for a neck. That's kind of what these guys were like. These guys lived on Earth during the Cretaceous period, which is good news for us, but not so much for the other creatures that lived at the time. Creatures would jump into the water to avoid a T-Rex only to find this guy waiting for them. Yeah. No thank you. In our number 9 spot today we have SCP-169. SCP-169 is a bit of an enigma because it is said that it cannot and will never be contained. There's no structure on Earth large or strong enough to hold SCP-169, and while the exact location of it is currently unknown, satellite images suggest that it is located in the southern Atlantic Ocean. SCP-169 is said to be a marine arthropod of massive size and is often referred to as Leviathan. At first it was presumed that the tales were just myths, but during investigations of supposed paranormal activity, its existence became feared. The creature is estimated to have a body length of somewhere from 2,000 to 8,000 kilometers, and it is thought to have existed since the Precambrian era. As far as we know, this single specimen is the only of its kind, and next to nothing is known about its lifestyle. The creature moves quite slowly at a pace of less than 1 kilometer per week, but it is currently believed that it is just adrift. In the area that is believed to be the current location of the creature, there have been regular seismic tremors detected, and this is thought to be indicative of SCP-169's breathing. These tremors cause minor shifts in the island's terrain, so it is believed that the creature is currently dormant. In our number 8 spot today we have the Pacu. The Pacu is a name that refers to several species of fish that actually do exist here on Earth, and they belong to the family of fish that are related to piranhas. There is one reason why these guys freak me out and make me feel like they're from another universe, and that is because they have teeth that literally look like a human's teeth. As relatives of the piranha, you'd think that they would have those same razor sharp teeth and the underbite, but that is simply just not the case. In a positive turn of events, however, despite their aggressive cousin and their creepy teeth, they mostly feed on plant material instead of flesh and scales, so while they're super uncomfortable to look at, they're not a worry to us at all. What if these fish have weird teeth because they came from a universe where fish have human teeth and humans have fish teeth? How do we know that there's no parallel universe where that exists? We don't. In our number 7 spot today we have SCP-3000. The area where SCP-3000 currently resides is a region in the Bay of Bengal that is around 300 kilometers in diameter. Because of the creature, any kind of deep sea diving by civilians is strictly prohibited, because if any contact is made, the humans will need to be immediately contained, quarantined, and processed for an indefinite amount of time. So what is SCP-3000? Well, it is a massive aquatic serpentine creature that resembles the giant moray eel. This one is a mostly sedentary creature, which may be due to its incredibly large size. While its exact measurements are unknown, it is believed to measure somewhere between 600 to 900 kilometers in length. This creature is carnivorous, and although it stays in one spot most of the time, that doesn't mean it doesn't have the ability to quickly snap up its prey. It is said that any direct observation, or even individuals within a certain distance of SCP-3000 will experience inexplicable head pain, paranoia, fear, panic, and memory loss or altercation. All of this being said, I think it's probably just safe to stay far, far away from this one. In our number 6 spot today we have the blobfish. I have spoken about the blobfish before, and I will again until they get the justice that they deserve. We've all seen a picture of a blobfish at some point or another. They're that fish that looks like a blob, or they kind of look like that coworker you don't really like, or the person in class who reminds the teacher that there was homework. I'm getting a little carried away, but you catch my drift.
They aren't cute, and they were even voted world's ugliest animal, and while I understand why, I think the blobfish is a little misunderstood at the moment. These guys like to make their home deep in the ocean, somewhere from 2,000 to 4,000 feet, where the water pressure is much greater than it is up here. If we tried to visit the natural habitat of the blobfish, we would need some heavy-duty equipment to keep ourselves safe, because our human bodies do not like that kind of pressure. So applying this same logic, the blobfish needs the same kind of protection if it were to come to the surface. Or better yet, we could just leave them alone to live in their little deep sea lives. While in its natural pressure-filled habitat, the blobfish looks like a normal deep sea fish, when it is forced to the surface they turn into these blob-looking guys that we've all been making fun of. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, okay, these guys are from our Earth, but they're basically from the parallel universe that we call the deep sea. In our number 5 spot today we have SCP-835. This creature is a large mass of coral-like polyps, with each individual polyp being larger than any known coral species. Some have been measured to have grown over a meter in diameter. SCP-835 has a central mass that is roughly shaped like an oval, with a polyp at each end. While this creature is unable to move around the deep sea, they appear to anchor themselves down by their large tentacles that come off of the polyps. The tentacles not only anchor the creature, but they also help in the feeding process, and they are coated with a sticky adhesive substance. This creature has an extremely hard outer shell, which means that diamond drills have been needed in order to help collect even the smallest samples of the specimens. This creature has the ability to secrete a pretty toxic batch of chemicals, parasites, and bacteria, so the idea of completely cracking one open is not something that is currently an option out of fear. SCP-835 also has the ability to grow at an incredibly fast rate, but it can also slow its own growth, even sometimes halting it for a full 24 hours. In our number 4 spot today we have the Helicoprion. This is the weirdest looking sea creature I've ever seen, and I am so glad it does not exist anymore. This is a creature that once swam in our oceans long before any of us were around. These creatures were like sharks, and they grew to be around 15 feet long. Their lower jaw consisted of a tooth whorl, which makes them literally look like a cross between a shark and a circular saw. Jaws just got a whole lot more terrifying. The fossils found of these creatures have shown us that their teeth were serrated, so they most definitely were carnivores, but there has been debate about the exact placement of the teeth within the mouth. Does it matter that much though? A shark combined with a power tool is a bad combo no matter what. These animals were able to survive the Permian-Triassic extinction though, which is a clear testament to their survival capabilities, and this might also mean that they lived extremely deep in our oceans. In our number 3 spot today we have SCP-3934. SCP-3934 is a species of amphibious reptiles that see the males growing to be 1.9 meters on average, and the females growing to be 1.7 meters. These guys are omnivorous and like to snack on fish and aquatic flora. This species was first created in the early 20th century with the intent to sell them as exotic pets, and while the exact circumstances surrounding their creation is unknown, it has been confirmed that some share almost identical skeletal structures with historical plesiosaurs. These guys were part of a whole marketing campaign to make them one of the most desired pets, and that just may be where the whole Loch Ness Monster thing comes from. SCP-3934 are very social animals, and they love to interact with humans as well. While being created, it is said that their behavior patterns were modeled after Labrador retrievers, so it is obvious that this species also makes a great best friend for man. I mean, aside from the whole we don't live in the water thing. Unfortunately, despite the intentions, they don't make great pets, as they have a specialized diet and habitat requirements that are not easily met, and this led to a vast majority of the specimens either passing away or being abandoned by those who once owned them. In our number 2 spot today we have Leviathan melvillei. These guys were a kind of whale that existed at the same time as the megalodon, so of course this means that they had to be quite a strong contender to match up to the Earth's largest predatory shark to ever exist. Their name of course comes from the Leviathan, and I can totally understand why. These are the whales that ate other whales for food. We know how large whales can be, so that is absolutely insane. These guys had the largest teeth of any animal that uses their teeth to eat. I said that like that because something like an elephant's tusk is technically larger, but elephants don't use those to eat. And they also don't eat whales, so there's that. These guys had heads that were 10 feet long, and they had the same echolocation abilities as whales today have, which makes them even better and more adapted predators. Like having teeth 1.2 feet long wasn't enough, they also needed to have a few special skills. While blue whales are currently our largest animal on Earth, I don't think they would have been able to stand up to these prehistoric whales. In our number 1 spot today we have SCP-1128. This SCP is a little different than the other ones on today's list, and that is because it is more of an etheric entity. This creature has the ability to manifest itself as an enormous aquatic predator, but only to those who have been given its full description of the appearance, so I'll try to refrain from doing that today. People who have been infected by the creature won't really show any symptoms or abnormal behavior, but it is possible that they might show extreme aversion to going into the water. If an infected person enters the water and is fully submerged, no matter the depth, they will completely disappear underneath the surface of the water. Some of the time they will reappear a few moments later in a state of total panic, frantically trying to get out of the water, but other times instead of reappearing above the water, you'll instead see blood and debris cloud the water, with the debris later being able to be confirmed as the vanished person. The lucky ones who have survived have explained that while they had vanished, they were transported to the vast ocean where they were actively being pursued by SCP-1128. I don't know about you guys, but I don't ever want to encounter SCP-1128.
Starting off this countdown, we have the ultra black fish. There are a couple of ultra black fish that are so dark that they are almost invisible. At least 16 species of these fish have specialized skin, which makes them almost impossible to detect. Their skin is so unique that they absorb 99.95% of all photons. This makes them blacker than black. Even under a harsh spotlight, these creatures appear as mere silhouettes. That's why it's also so hard to capture a photo of them. One scientist said, and I quote, "It didn't matter how you set up the camera or lighting, they just sucked up all the light." So in a way, these fish have a cloak of invisibility, and that's why it's so easy for them to sneak up on their prey. With features like this, it literally makes them seem like they came from another universe. In our 9th spot today we have the brittle star. For this one I want to take a look at one brittle star in particular, and that's one that's named the Game of Thrones star. That's because its appendages look like the thorny crown found on the second Game of Thrones book cover, A Clash of Kings. Now what's weird about these creatures is that they don't have any brains or eyes, yet they somehow know what they need to do in order to survive. Like dude, it's literally a brainless organism wandering around the bottom of the ocean, and when fish get close to it, they reach out their tentacles and wrap them in a spiral and then eat them. Take a look at them. They literally look like creepy little brainless aliens. I refuse to believe that they're real. Like, I mean, obviously they are real, but like, that's a creature straight out of a horror film. In our 8th spot today we have the black swallower. This is a deep sea fish with a big appetite, and it can handle more than it looks like it can. That's because it's slender in size, but its stomach can expand up to 10 times its original size. In fact, it can swallow big fish whole, and then the fish stays in their stomach, which gets stretched into transparency. In fact, sometimes their food starts rotting in their stomach before they even get to finish digesting it. No wonder it was given the name the swallower fish. Just look at that thing. In our 7th spot today we have the Pacific black dragon. Now this is one of the sea creatures that is considered to be ultra black, so it easily blends into the depths of the ocean where no light reaches. Now this creature literally looks like an alien from Predator. Look at this! Look at its creepy beady eyes and sharp teeth and like long chin whiskers. It's undeniably creepy. Now the males are small. They grow to be about 3 inches in length. Now they're the weird ones. They have no teeth, no chin whisker thing, and no stomach. And since it has no stomach, it's unable to eat. Isn't that weird? It literally lives only long enough to mate, and then it dies. Now the female black dragons are the scary ones. These ones can grow to about 2 feet. Yes, 2 feet. And they're the ones with the big fang-like teeth, and they have that whisker or barbel. At the end of that whisker thing, there's this little light that can turn on to attract prey. So fish swimming by are like, ooh, what's this glowy thing? I hope it tastes good. And then they go to eat it, and then the black dragon is like, psych, it's me, and then they gobble the fish whole. They also emit poison, which is very dangerous and deadly to their predators. I swear, this video is making me scared of the ocean now. In our 6th spot, we have the zombie worm. In another universe, we have worms that live in the ocean and devour bones. Just kidding, they're real, and these zombie worms are from our universe. Again, I really don't understand how they are real. So these worms are about 1 to 3 inches, so they aren't that big. However, they are very creepy. These tiny things like to devour great big whale bones, and their style of eating is pretty weird, especially since they don't have mouths or stomachs. So basically, they secrete an acid from their skin that is so strong that it can dissolve bones. This then breaks down the bone's fats and proteins from the inside, which they then digest. How delicious. Now, they don't just attack whale bones though. They'll tackle fish bones, even cow bones. I know what you're thinking, how are cows in the ocean? Well, sometimes cows or other animals get dumped into the ocean, so they'll take whatever they can get. That's not even the weirdest part, okay? The weirdest part is that the male zombie worms live inside the female ones. One study counted 111 males inside just one female zombie worm. Just one. Again, how is this real? Like, it literally sounds made up. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the hagfish, also known as slime eels, even though they aren't eels. Now, these ones gross me out because they literally look like human intestines. But what's even more gross are their feeding habits. So basically, they consume other sea creatures by burrowing their way into them. Here's an image of them literally eating a dead shark. They literally create a massive tunnel into the creatures and eat them from the inside out. Ooh. But not only that, they secrete this slime to ward off predators. The slime is so sticky that it can clog the gills of its attackers. Take a look at this video of it repelling a shark. Like what? The shark literally went to chomp it and then it got deterred, and the hagfish was left unharmed somehow. Moving on to number 4, we have the three-eyed fish. Now, when this creature was discovered in 2011 by an Argentinian man, people went crazy. So he was out on a fishing trip with some friends when he caught this fish. A literal mutated three-eyed fish. Now, it's quite possible that you've heard of this fish before, because in The Simpsons there is a three-eyed fish known as Blinky. Bart fishes it up near the Springfield power plant in season 2 episode 4. So people were like, oh my god, The Simpsons predicted this fish. It was especially eerie since the fish was caught in a reservoir where a power plant pumps hot water from their facility and the water is pretty polluted. Honestly, anything with multiple eyes are not from this world. They're just not. In our 3rd spot today, we have the mutant sea creature. In 2018, a strange looking sea creature was found floating along the shore of a beach in China. Everyone was like, what is that? And they were scared to go near it. I mean, it wasn't anything they had ever seen before, but one man wasn't afraid, so he actually went near it and picked it up. And that's when the animal started moving its head and limbs. This creature, who is not yet identified, has a human-like head with some sort of short stubby arms and legs. Theories range from a new species of sea life to a mutated starfish or a mutated sea sponge. What do you think it is though? Whatever it is, it's very creepy and alien-like. In our 2nd spot today, we have the goblin shark. Now, this is unlike any shark I have ever seen before, and that's because it has the weirdest face ever. Like, I'm sorry, but it doesn't look like a shark. That's what I imagine a human crossed with a shark would look like. So these creatures can grow 12 feet long and can weigh up to 460 pounds. It was thought that 13 feet was the biggest that they could grow to, but in 2000 they found a giant goblin shark that was 20 feet long. So now researchers say that they have no real idea about how big these creatures can truly get. Now, this thing has one of the creepiest looking faces. It's got a super long nose with a weird Voldemort nostrils, pink flesh, making it look like it was skinned alive, and of course, look at its sharp teeth. But it gets worse. These sharks don't hunt their prey down. Instead, they wait for their prey to come to them. They're just chilling in the water, and once a fish gets close enough, they launch their jaws out and clamp down on them. Yeah, their top and bottom teeth are attached to ligaments, so they can reach out and extend its mouth to grab its prey. And its mouth can launch out to about 10.1 feet per second. And its mouth opens super wide. It can open at a 111 degrees angle. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the barrel eye fish. Now, this fish literally has a see-through head. Not only that, but the thing that you see there, which looks like a brain, is not a brain. It's actually its eyes. Their eyes can rotate in all different directions. They can even look up to see above them through their see-through head. You guys are probably tired of me saying this, but how is this a real creature? I'm sorry, but this fish has a glowing see-through head. Like, that's not normal.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Sparkle Muffin. These guys are colloquially named Sparkle Muffin, but they belong to an Australian jumping spider species of peacock spiders. They were first discovered quite recently in 2015 in the forest of Wandul National Park. They are around 10 millimeters big, but can jump lengths that are 50 times their own size, which is both impressive and horrifying if you're afraid of spiders like I am. The females in this species have a more plainly colored back, but the males are really where things get interesting. The male spiders have bright and beautiful colored backs, which make them look like a spider not from this planet. Spiders already look a little strange, so seeing one that is less creepy and more stunning is kind of confusing. These colors are of course to attract a mate and are flaunted during courtship. In our number 9 spot today we have the axolotl. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far. Axolotls are also known as Mexican walking fish, and they also look like they came straight out of Pokemon. Despite being known as a walking fish, they are actually amphibians, but unlike most others, they reach adulthood without going through a metamorphosis. Rather than becoming land animals, they keep their gills and live in the water. The external gills that many salamanders have are usually lost in other species, but these guys keep theirs and they are lined with filaments, and this combination is what gives them such a unique look. Axolotls are often used in scientific research because they have the amazing ability to regenerate their own limbs. Unfortunately, axolotls are critically endangered in the wild. In 2010, they were near extinction due to water pollution, and the issue was only exacerbated by the induction of the invasive species tilapia and perch. Guess we're just ending that one off on a sad note. And they're dying. In our number 8 spot today, we have the naked mole rat. Watching Kim Possible was truly the only exposure I got to these guys when I was a kid, and boy do they look a lot freakier in real life. Naked mole rats are burrowing rodents that are native to East Africa. They're often called sand puppies, but that is one connection I just don't see. Despite them looking like actual aliens, one really cool thing about these guys is that they are one of only 2 known mammals that aren't humans that are eusocial, which is the highest classification of sociality. They have many physical characteristics that give them the ability to survive in the harsh underground conditions, such as their lack of pain sensitivity in their skin, as well as their low metabolic and respiratory rates. They're also super cool animals because of their long lifespans, which are longer than most other rodents, and their resistance to cancer, and their ability to survive on little to no oxygen for hours at a time. With all of these defense mechanisms built up, it seems like these guys really would be able to survive the jump from one universe to the other. In our number 7 spot today, we have the pangolin. Pangolins are commonly referred to as scaly anteaters, and it truly isn't hard to see why. Something unique about these guys is that they're the only known mammal with scales. Could it perhaps be because they came from a universe where all mammals have scales? No idea is too outlandish when we are talking about parallel universes. They're also nocturnal animals and tend to be quite solitary. There are different species of them, but unfortunately 8 of them are threatened in some way, with 3 of them being critically endangered due to poachers as well as deforestation in their natural habitats. They're hunted for both their meat and their scales that are used in some traditional medicines, and they're actually the most trafficked mammals in the world. Guess that was another sad one. In our number 6 spot today, we have alligator gar. The alligator gar is one creepy looking fish and is one of the largest freshwater fish in North America, as they can grow up to 8 feet. These fish have reptile-like snouts with rows of sharp teeth which resemble an alligator, which of course is how they got their name. These fish are often referred to as primitive fish or living fossils because they have retained so much from their previous early ancestors, such as their spiral valve intestine, as well as the fact that they're actually able to breathe both air and water, which is a super cool capability. These fish have been able to be traced back to the early Cretaceous period 100 million years ago, so they've been here long before any of us. These fish are stalking ambush predators, and due to their sharp teeth and just how large they are, I feel like these are a fish I personally will be staying far away from. In our number 5 spot today, we have vampire bats. Vampire bats are obviously bats, but unlike regular ones, the vampire variety have, as their name would suggest, evolved to feed on blood. Bats are already a pretty interesting animal in general as they are nocturnal and use echolocation, but these guys really take it to a whole new level. Vampire bats use their senses to detect sleeping animals by their sound and are even able to sense the best place on the animal for them to dig into. Considering there are only 3 kinds of vampire bats and the rest of the bat species feed on fruit and insects, these creatures are definitely a bit of an outlier. Maybe they come from a universe where vampires aren't just a thing in fiction. If the multiverse does exist, there has to be a universe where vampires are real. In our number 4 spot today we have the pacu. Pacu is a name that refers to species of fish that belong to a family that are related to piranhas. There is one reason why these guys freak me out and make me feel like they are from another universe, and that is because they have teeth that literally look like a human's teeth. Although they are related to piranhas, they most definitely do not share the same razor sharp teeth or the same severe underbite. And in a positive turn of events, despite their aggressive cousin and their creepy teeth, they mostly feed on plant material instead of flesh and scales. Imagine having a fish with teeth like a human bite into you. Maybe these fish come from a parallel universe where humans have piranha teeth and piranhas have human teeth. Okay, I might be getting a little carried away, but who knows what goes on in the multiverse? In our number 3 spot today we have the blobfish. Okay, I'm sure we've all seen a picture of a blobfish at some point, considering it has been voted the world's ugliest animal, and honestly, I can see why. Here's the weird thing about these guys though. The picture I'm sure a lot of us have seen with these guys looking weird and, well, like blobs, isn't actually how they look underwater. These guys like to live somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 feet beneath the water, which is super deep in our oceans. Since they live so deep in our oceans, the pressure that they like to live in is immensely greater than our pressure up here. Like, without a super heavy duty submarine, we couldn't even try to get that deep. So obviously, if we don't like being down there, then why would they ever want to be up here? So while in their more natural habitat they look like actual fish, when they get pulled up too quickly to a pressure they don't like, they turn into these weird blob looking guys. I also forgot to mention that they usually don't survive that. I feel like we were too hard on them considering it's not their fault that they look like that. But seriously, when they're all blobby, they don't look like fish at all. Or really any creature that should live on this planet. In our number 2 spot today we have the fossa. The fossa is a mammal that appears to look a lot like a cat, but it's actually not one at all. These animals are the top predator in Madagascar and hunt day or night and are able to hunt on land or in trees. These animals have had quite a tumultuous time getting classified because they don't really fit into one box. They look a lot like cats, but they share a common characteristic with 2 other species, one of which is a mongoose. More recently they have been put into basically a separate category. This category is for animals that are believed to have descended from mongoose-like ancestors in Madagascar about 20 million years ago. That is absolutely insane. These animals are also quite solitary, and one thing that is totally unique to them is how the females of this species during adolescence go through a masculine phase. They have actual physical features for a short while that are only seen on male fossas before they just return back to females. It certainly is a super interesting thing about them, but it's wild how no other animal goes through this same kind of thing. I wonder what could be the explanation behind that. In our number 1 spot today we have the star-nosed mole. The star-nosed mole is on this list for no reason other than its star nose, because what the actual heck is that? Their noses are super creepy looking but incredibly powerful. They're actually used as a touch organ that contains more than 25,000 sensory receptors. Other kinds of animals have the same sort of organ that the star-nosed mole does, but none are nearly as specialized or as numerous. The mole uses its nose to navigate around because of the fact that they are functionally blind. These animals have also been dubbed the fastest eating animal, as it takes them an average of 227 milliseconds to identify and consume individual food items, which is kind of like me with french fries. Apparently their brain can decide in 8 milliseconds if something is edible or not, which is the speed limit of neurons. If this wasn't already interesting enough, these animals can also smell underwater. That's a pretty cool power!